Please excuse me if I mangle everything. I just gave a really bad lecture on JavaScript. It was awesome. My brain is not switching languages very well. So anyways, what we want to do today is we just want to talk about the courses assignment. And so kind of my general strategy is I first look at what the assignment's actually going to be and kind of get a sense of what I want to do. So looking at the awesome wireframe, it looks like we basically have a couple of fields that have, an index-ish method, which is going to be we have a create-ish field. Which in terms of the RESTful routing is new and create. We've got a delete as well as a show. Delete is going to be a method that removes a course. And a show is going to show a single course. Yep. In addition, I think we're going to throw in an update. And with an update comes an edit field. But we'll see if we get to that. All right. And it turns out that these are the 7 RESTful routes that we always use. So great. That's why I wanted to do this courses demo. Just to kind of give you guys a sense of how to use a model and a controller and using RESTful routes. All right. So my build strategy is slightly different than I think a lot of people's, but we're just going to go through it and do it. So questions about that? Is that everybody clear as what our assignment's going to be? Because I think about half of you have done it already, so we're in the middle of doing it. Sorry about this wall of whiteboards. All right. So, whoa. Cool. So, as I said, my build strategy is a little bit different than most people's. My thing is I sit down and look at the wireframe, make sure I kind of understand what's going on with the wireframe before I do anything, and then I build my database. So, cruise over to our database. It looked like, based on what I saw on that wireframe, all of our courses need is its key value pair, with an ID. We need a title, a description, a created at, and an updated at. Let me just make sure that's the case. So we've got date added, description, course name, course title. Awesome. Okay. So that database looks like it's going to be pretty good, I think. So I already went through and made my database. So if I go back to my root, the next thing I do is I actually write all of my queries. So we kind of described what the major queries were going to be. And in terms of RESTful routing, the first one is index, which is just going to be select star from courses. Run that, make sure that it works. Great, that's going to select everything. The next one is going to be create. Insert it into courses. Title. Description. Created at. Created at. Values. Let's just throw in some random values. Mike. What's that? I'm not a title. Python. Values. And these guys are going to go in parentheses as well. Python. It's awesome. We will use Python to generate websites and not be able to speak in English. Now, for date time, created now. And the reason that I do this, I'm going to break this up into a couple rows. But the reason that I go through and do this is because I really don't like troubleshooting my SQL queries while I'm doing the rest of my stuff. Because there's nothing more frustrating than being sitting there, having everything you think working and getting this stupid response that's like, your SQL query doesn't work. Anyways, so that's my personal preference. So let's just run this, make sure it creates a insert, and it looks like I got a little green star there, so awesome. Let's just run our select. Great. I clearly made some in a clone Pylot. Great. Now we're going to just set up Pylot. I should go into the Pylot directory. Setup. Setup. Set up. I can't type clearly. All right, now we're setting up all our local dependencies that are going to create a virtual environment. What's it? Yeah, so there's a bunch of dependencies that are in Pylot that it's now calling and accessing. Great, and so we'll see that our virtual environment shows up over here. So we're now sitting in our virtual environment, and now we can do Python manage.py run server, and hopefully we'll get a happy server. Awesome. Okay, so far things are looking up for us. Let's go to localhost 5000. And I can't type still. And that's what we're expecting to see. So at this point, I'm going to be wanting to look at both my code and my, oops, I don't really want that one. Never mind. That was me playing around earlier. All right, let's close our server and start up Atom. Or in your guys' case, probably Sublime. All right, great. There's our Pylot. You want to open that one up. Now we want to compare the two side by side. Awesome. And then we'll start our server back up. Great. So now we can kind of look at our code as we change things. And go along, we can just keep updating here, and if we have to restart our server, we'll just toggle over. Excellent. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure that my database is up and running. So I'm going to go into config files, check out the database, turn it on. Great. Then I'm going to go into my controller file and make myself a new controller. And I'm really lazy. So my strategy, and a lot of these MVC frameworks kind of have a generic one that's already pre-built. Courses.py as my controller. I'm just going to go into the generic one that's already built for us, copy it all. My database was already set at 3306. So yes, but if I had not set it at 3306, I would. So yeah, let's go back into our database really quick. So notice down here, there's this port. Yes, so I was just going to show that. So if you go into MAMP or WAMP, depending on what you're using, you look at the preferences and look at the SQL port. And mine's 3306. We can just change that to 8889. I have to restart my server. It's going to hate me for a little bit. Great. So my Apache server is up and running, doing some other things, so that's why it's getting that 3000 error or warning. All right. So now if we go back to Atom, since we changed our port there, we have to change our port here as well. All right, so our courses are empty. So as I said, I'm lazy. I don't really want to copy and retype everything from my welcome controller. So I'm just going to copy it all, have everything in there, maybe make a few changes. Like I don't care about their example model. Don't care about that. And change this to course. Going to change this to course. Is. Going to change this to courses. Going to go into my routes. And so hopefully at this point, actually let me just comment this out for now. Oops. Because the model is going to be the singular, the controller is the plural. Great. I'm going to let it load the same index view for now. And I'm going to go into the routes. I'm going to change the routing ever so slightly. So in here we have our first route default controller. We're going to change that from welcome, which is working right now, just to make sure this is indeed working. Oh, it's not working. Okay, it is working currently. So let's go in and just make sure that our courses, when we run our courses and change this from welcome to courses, is also working. Okay, so we save that, refresh here, still looks like it's working. Great. So let's just confirm that and type in something that doesn't make sense. Aw, so sad. Okay. Cool. All right, so we now have our own awesome server or controller up and running. It's not going to be doing anything at this current juncture, but at least it's up there and running. We have a class courses. It has its own init. It's initializing itself. We're going to eventually load a model in here called course. I'm going to delete this stuff because we don't need that. On our index page, what kinds of things might we want to do? Well, we're going to load this index page. And that index page is eventually going to have a couple of things on it. And the couple of things that it's going to have on it are hiding from me because I closed the courses Python thingy. Let's just make a new page off that. Expand it out. Go back here. Expand that back out. Oops. Cool. All right, so now we can go back here and look. So we got this little chunk up here. So that index page is eventually going to have an add new course location and then an index of all the courses. So we're going to want to go to our database at some point and get all of the courses. So I'm going to make a comment in my controller that it's going to do that. Next method, because we already described our method when we set up our initial database, right? All right, when we went through and made all those database calls. Great. And then we're also going to have some sort of event where you can click on a button. When you click on remove, it goes to another website or web page and ask whether or not you really want to do that. And that page is going to have information about that individual course and then some other stuff. So that's going to be a show method. So I'm going to just make myself a little comment here. Def destroy confirm self. And at this point, I'm going to pass and not do anything with it. I'm just going to have it sitting there. Go to database and call show. And we're going to have hit self.loadView, destroy confirm page. And that's going to have a button on it that's going to have call the destroy method. Eventually, yes. We're going to have a delete method. It's going to have self. Again, I'm just going to pass. And what this is going to do is it's going to do a couple things. One, it's going to call to the database and delete. The other thing it's going to do is it's going to redirect back to the root. Right. Cool. So I have a pretty good sense of what everything I'm going to do. So now I'm going to go and build my entire course model, and then I'm going to come back and build all this HTML. Yep. Yeah. All right. So we'll go into our models. We've got our welcome Py model. Again, I'm lazy. New file, course.py. Go to our welcome model, select it all, paste it on in, change some names around. I'm just going to do Control D or Command D and find welcome model. I'm just going to change that, make sure I've got it everywhere. Yep. And just change that to course. There's some other stuff that we don't need for now. Great. So now I have our course model. It's looking pretty good. So this is going to be the index method that we called before. And again, we already know what that's going to be. So we're going to do a query equals select star from user or from courses, right? And then yeah. All right, as I said, I was just dealing with a bunch of JavaScript, and I like to print my query, and so I tend to separate. I tend to separate my query and my call to that query so that I can look at the query if things aren't working quite right, print it out, and then copy it back into my my SQL workbench. All right, what other ones we have? So we have def show, pass, def delete, pass, def create, pass. All right, what other ones do we have? We have one more, an update. Nope, not on the controller side. So the confirm destroy in the controller was loading this page that will eventually call the model method destroy. So it's called delete, sorry. Oh, sorry, it'll load this page and call show, sorry. And then that next page, when you click on confirm, will go and do this method, which is the delete method. All right. Great. So now all we need to do, go and grab our queries. Head over here, pick them all up. We don't need the index one. But we know all these are pretty much working. So We're just gonna have to do a few substitutions. Right. So insert into courses, description, values, now. That's the update or the insert, right? So that's create. Query equals what's that? It'll work fine. I mean, it was working before, so it should still work fine. But for consistency, and we have to get rid of all those comments that are the organizational stuff. What's going to go here? Awesome. I know. Yes, that would be much better that time.
You got the singles because the whole insert into is the double quotes, and so the brackets get the single quotes. Otherwise, it will break up. Right?
Yep. And then we have to pass some stuff in. So where are we going to get stuff? We're going to get it from a form, but it's going to a model from a controller. So we're actually passing in the values. Params. We're not going to, yep, I'm going to come with params. All right. And then we can self-db that query after we print it. Notice that this allows me, if I always name my query my string, then I can always just call this exact same method in every single case. So not to repeat too much code, you can just go like that, like that, like that. Return the passes, put a return. I'm just going to return a phrase for now, and we're going to fix what that get return comes later. And why am I returning this? What's that? So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is that I'm returning a string so that when I call it, I make sure that I'm getting that thing back. So I'm actually invoking the proper method. So what I'll do is I'll print what gets returned when I first make that initial call to the database and make sure that I'm actually showing something.
It's like a self-test.
Yep. Okay, again, same pattern. I tend to do things. Same pattern. I print my query and I set my query. So I'm going to do that for each one of these. And how I'm going to set them is I'm just going to go and get the text that I copied from the page below. All right, so we're doing a show. So that's going to be the select from courses where ID equals 2. Where ID equals curly brackets. Format, params.
Single quotes.
Nope. Nope. So because this is going to be a number that's going to be coming through, we don't need to have quotes around it. It's the only ones that are strings that we need to do that for. Delete. We're going to pass in again params because we're going to delete from courses where ID equals params. Cool. Let's make sure that that's actually what the query said. So delete from courses where ID equals 2. Done that one. Get rid of that. Get rid of that one. All right, update. Same concept. Again, we're going to have params coming in. And I didn't set the entire thing, so let's do everything. Description equals quote curly braces. These are both strings. And this one is not a string. Description. Cool. This is again the query equals that. So let's make it a little bit nicer. Update. Set. Where. Dot format. Params. Great. So it's looking like we have all of our RESTful routes. Questions about that? Is that? Yeah.
Before they didn't have like the dot format param at the end, and the variable. Is that just a different way of doing it?
So
Like in a different
yeah. So let's actually. That's a great point. So all these cases, I'm just calling this the variable. Yeah. It's just a variable that I'm passing over.
Or not like that. They would do like they wrote the query, but they didn't say like what was going into it at all. Then they wrote a new line of code with like a variable, and then they wrote.
It's just going to be the same thing. Yeah. And we may have to tweak what we've gotten here eventually, but this is just kind of getting the base format down. And then, as I said, so my goal whenever I do this stuff is pretty much do everything the same way. So notice I always have query. If I'm going to pass a parameter in, I put it in, set it up, so it's all going to be working. I print it out, and then I run the query potentially. And so if I have to make a tweak, the tweaks are going to be minor because I know what I started with. And change this back to param because I like it better. It's just what's going to get passed over. And then you could potentially make another string that dissects that params object that gets passed through and change it around so that it's in the proper order that you want, or if you have to rename things to match what's in your database or whatever, you can do that. And we may have to do that at some point. Cool. Okay. Excellent. So now let's go back to our courses.py. So we're now at the index method. Now we just need to self-load model. And at this point, I'm just going to just make sure everything's still up and running. So cool. Looks like things I haven't broken anything. So my code might not work, but at least is actual functional code. So that's good. Great. All right, so let's go to the first one. Let's try and get everything from our course model. Self.course. What? How do I invoke things in this silly language? We can just look it up. It's the beauty of having this thing. All right. Self.models. Bracket whatever the method is, or whatever the model that we're going to go to, and then whatever the method is in that model. Which makes sense. All right, so let's change that. Self.models. Bracket. Course. If you've loaded multiple models, it's an array, or it's a list of all those models. So we're going and getting one of those model members. And then we're invoking the method index of that model, and index doesn't take anything. So let me just make sure that this is a capital M and not a lowercase m. Lowercase. Great. So now when we run our index method, we're hopefully going to see that this thing prints out index. Let's make sure that it actually does print out index. So it prints the query. It returns, whoops, sorry, here's it, index up here. Prints the query. Let's print index as well. Aw, brokey. Cool. It's a temporary typo that we fixed without actually doing anything. Oh, global name index is not defined. Aw. How about that? So we tried to print a variable that was pointing at some memory space. That memory space didn't exist. We actually just wanted to print the string. All right. So now it's back up and running, and let's see what got printed out. Select all from courses. Ran the index method. Yes. So far, so good. Cool. All right, let's go back to our model, it's our controller, excuse me. And in that index, we just called this method. We didn't do anything with the return. So let's make a variable called courses equals whatever gets returned from that model. Now we're over on this side, and let's print courses. So basically what I'm going to do is so we saw it go to the database, and we saw it call that model, and that's where those two print statements came from. Now we're saying what came back from the database, and we're hoping that we're going to get a single course because we have one course in our database already, and we'll see. So just run that again, and let's see what got popped up. All right, well, we didn't get anything from our courses. Let's see why not. What's that? I did delete them all. Good call. All right, let's go added course back in and then run that one more time. So this is one of the reasons that I like to have my database queries all set up beforehand, is because I can do things like exactly that. Run this thing. Oops. Oh, my server isn't up. Oh, man. Yep. So I've got to go back and change my route. Man, you guys are making my life difficult here. Cool. That's easy. Go home. Oops. Let's try it again. Go home. Hit our little controller thingy on it. Change this port to 8889. Oh, come on. Sorry, this is kind of annoying. Home. Yeah. 8889. It should have updated it, but it didn't. So let's do a couple other things. Let's turn this MAMP off. That shouldn't, well, that might affect things, but nope, you can leave it at 3306. That was my original plan, but this is fun. No, I mean, it's good to see because this sort of thing does happen, right? I mean, you play around with things, things get broken, you want to be able to figure out how to fix them. So, and it's not a big deal, just slowing things down a little bit. So go back to the SQL Workbench. Whoops. Check out a root now. Come on, little guy. Update this thing. 889. Test connection. Not connect. Okay, that's fine. update already. Oh, that's probably why. So I was selecting MySQL connections rather than root. There, now it's looking better. Cool. All right, so we'll get man back started. Start server. Go back to our workbench. Go back to our root. Attempt failed. Connection has been closed. There we go. All right. Now we've lost all our queries, but whatever. Good thing we have them. We can go back and get them from over here with a few modifications. Whoops. Update, insert, create. There we go. So insert into that. Grab all this stuff. Python. Yay. Just cancel. Yeah, it's true. Good point. Okay. Run that thing. All right, it's up, it got inserted. So now let's go and check our index method. Refresh, fire this thing off. Oh my goodness. Okay, refresh it one more time. Cool. All right, this time, yes, we got one. All right, cool. Now let's go run over back to our HTML. So over here, we're in our courses, in our controller. We just printed out the courses, so that's now working. So now we can say courses equals courses over here. Right, and so now we can access courses in our views. So why don't we just do that and just make this super ugly. I'm not like Chris. My styling is fantastic. I don't make strange colors. I don't do anything. Just plain text. All right. So let's do some plain text. We only have one thing, but whatever. For course, in courses, let's print out course bracket title. Print out another line, course bracket description. And because I made this capital because I'm on drugs or something, let's see what we get. Python, yeah, or yay, or whatever you want to say. Great. Let's just make this into a div so it's in a different line. And eventually this will go into a table, also, but for now, let's put a break there and just have it in 2 different lines. Awesome. So far things are looking up. Let's make another object in this thing. Let's stick a button on here. And we'll call this button delete. Refresh it. Do we really want to delete that thing? I don't know. All right, so if we're going to do some sort of deletey thing, we have a couple of options of how to do it. But we want to be able to delete any given course. So we don't want to have it outside of the for loop. We want to have it inside of the for loop. And that way, if we had 2 courses, let's go make 2 courses. We'll just run the same query again. So now we have 2 Pythons. We'll run this thing, and now we'll hopefully get. Did I not do something? Let me just go check and see if I ran that or not. Oh, yeah, I did. Okay. What's that? Yeah. All right, so let's just refresh our. Just that guy, just to make sure. And go ahead and go back to our code. Refresh this thing. There we go. All right, still not very pretty, but at least now we have 3 potential delete buttons for 3 potential courses. I think what went on there is that, and I don't know exactly why. Sorry. Is that when the database got loaded, we loaded it an access point that was specific to the virtual environment, and the actions that I was doing were outside of the virtual environment, so it was taking a bit of time to refresh itself. And so by restarting the server, it went and accessed the most current version. That's my guess, but I don't actually know why.
So it's possible sometimes updates will make instantly available.
Correct. Yeah, and once we start dealing with single-page applications in JavaScript, if for those of you who go the mean route strategy, there's potential for the database to be updated before you can access information out of it, and bad things happen. So, because databases aren't instantaneous, right? They're a whole other server somewhere far away from, or potentially far away from your local server, or wherever you're hosting your HTML. All right. Cool. So we could click on this button. Doesn't really do anything for us yet. That's it? Yes, exactly. So how do we give it something to do? So we're just going to make this kind of ugly, but we'll do it this way. We're going to create a new route, and that route's going to be just destroy. And we're also going to just put in the course ID in here. Ooh, shiny. All right, so let's click on it now we've made this change. And what we'll see, hopefully, is it'll crash. Aw, but at least it went to a route destroy and then an ID. So now that we have this information that there's this route here that we want to go to, yeah. Well, it worked. It went to where I needed it to, but why it's not button looking. Yeah. Okay. Good call. All right. So regardless, we have this route that we want to go to, but it's not going anywhere. So let's go ahead and make ourselves a new route. All right. So routes. What's the method? Get. The route that we're going to is destroy, and we're passing in an ID. And then what we're going to do with that is we're going to go to our courses controller, and we're going to run something. And I forgot what it was, but I think it's called destroy confirm. So you cruise over there, go to courses, destroy confirm. Now notice that I have this parameter that's getting passed as a parameter from our routing. So destroy confirm is going to have to take some sort of parameter with it. So it has self already, and then an ID. And let's just make sure that's actually doing what we think it's doing. So we're going to print that ID and make sure we're actually doing what we think it's doing. So we're going to comment out this print because we know this is working. Comma our ID, just to clarify what it is, because if it's a single number like that, sometimes it's kind of hard to find in the code. So go back home, Oh man, I broke something again. Oh, you're also going to start with a leading slash. So, yep, let's just go and take a look at what I messed up. So it's probably in our routes. Backslash destroy. And then let's make sure that our anchor tag href also does that. So the leading backslash, what it does is it sends us back to the root. And so if you don't go back to the root and try to call a method, it's actually an extended URL route, and it can build itself out. This happens more in PHP than in Pylot and Python, but that's what this leading slash does. And let's go back to our index.html, make sure that that's needing also a slash there. All right, try again. Maybe I broke it still, we'll see. Oh, looks like that part's working, that's good. Happy yes, right? And let's click on something. All right, so we got a new error. Function did not return a response, which is fine. What that means is it didn't load a page when it was probably expecting some sort of page load or a return or something. And that's what we're about to look at. And so the print statements tend to occur before all the errors. And so here is what got printed. So U is a Unicode string. So that's why you have to do, sometimes you have to do string conversion on stuff because it's a untyped ID. So you have to give it some sort of type. And so we ran into that problem when we were doing the bcrypt stuff the other day. So that's why I had to put string first. Cool. All right. So far things are still looking pretty solid. All right. Now what do we want to do? We're here, we get a route. Let's go and make ourselves a new view. What do we want to call that? Delete confirm.html. Right, and this thing is just going to be are you sure you want to confirm this? Right. Are you sure you want to delete this? Cool. Going back to our courses, let's load that page. So we're going to go back to our controller. And remember, this is kind of the relationship between that MVC model as you go from your HTML page to your controller to your database, back to your controller, back to your HTML pages. And it kind of does this kind of like boomerang shape thing. At least that's how I think about it. Cool. So we're going to load this view. So before we were passing and not returning anything. So let's get rid of that comment. Self-load view. Destroy confirm.html. Go ahead and check to make sure that that's delete confirm. So we'll switch this thing to delete. All right. So hopefully when we try to delete something now, it'll load us onto a new page. I suppose we should do that. No. Cool. Well, let's try it and see what happens. Fine. Cool. Good call. All right. Okay, so we don't know what we want to delete, but we might want to delete something. So how are we going to figure out what we want to delete? So we have this other comment that we have in here, which was go to database and call show. So let's go ahead and do that. So again, self.models course dot, instead of index, we're going to do the show method. And what we're going to show is int ID. But remember how that ID was unicoded? We're now converting it into an integer and putting a semicolon where we don't need it. So now we should be passing over an integer to our show method, and let's see what happens over there. So we're currently at courses. We're now just about to go into our course model, and in that course model, we're about to call the show method. Show method is hanging out here. It's got params, and that params is just going to be hopefully an integer of an ID. So let's just confirm that and just print params here. And we can again from courses. Right. Cool, it didn't break. I like that. And we have some, there it is, one from courses. And then we have our query right here, select from courses where ID equals 1. So that's looking pretty good. If we ran that, I'm pretty sure it would work, because, yeah.
So where does that Unicode come from? Why isn't it an integer?
It's coming back from the database as Unicode. And it's just the fact that MySQL will change the coding type.
So it comes from the database as that, but then the database will only accept an integer.
Yep. And the reason for that is by making things into Unicode, it prevents people from breaking your database by putting in strange characters that would potentially interact negatively with your database, allowing them to steal all your information. So if you put in a string, you can set things like true when you're putting in a password. And if you have something returning true all the time, then you can start to access other people's information potentially.
There also be like foreign characters and non-English characters.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, they'll be escaped. Yeah, exactly. So, cool. All right. So now let's go ahead and keep going. All right, so we're now at this, we just did this, right? So we just printed query. Whoops, sorry, we just did this. And then we did that. And we actually probably should have returned show. We didn't actually print anything. But let's, instead of returning show, let's return what comes back from our query. Because our query looks pretty solid, so I'm pretty comfortable with that. And then, so now we're returning, and so we basically went down here, went to our courses method, did some stuff. In this case, we printed the parameters from courses, we printed the query, and then now we are returning back to courses. So let's go back up to courses and take a look. All right, so this was the destroy confirm. We called this method, but we didn't set a variable to it. So let's call this course equals self.model courses, or course.show, and let's print course. Cool. So hopefully we'll get back a single course with whichever ID that we clicked on. All right. Just going back to here. Let's click on the third one. So we should get the third course. They're all the same, but at least they'll show up with a different ID in it. So that's working. And there it is. So there's our course that came back. So we are now back at our courses controller. And now we can go, again, remember that boomerang shape? So now we're going to go back and load a view. All right. Okay, so now we're at this delete confirm view. So again, we can do course equals course. Of course. All right, and then in our load view, what do we want to do? We want to print that out, right? So if we, what? Oh yeah, okay, cool. So we want to go back to here. Yep. And then we have course bracket. Whoops. Did I mess something else up? Course title. Again, I'm going to be doing some awesome HTML here. Super stylish. Pretty much pro at this. Description. And let's do the same thing we did last time. An A tag, an href, equaling, for now we're just going to have it empty. Our button, this time I closed it, Ryan. See that? I learned from you. Thank you. And we also want another button in here that's not. We're just going to call this one return. And the button will be, go back. Sound good? I heard somebody say it, so. Cool. And again, what did I forget? So I need a route that I need there, but I'm also just even right here, I'm totally forgetting something. Yeah. So we need that one. We also need this one, right? And then what do we want to call this? Yes, delete. So notice you can name your routes whatever you want. And kind of intentionally naming a few of them kind of sillily, but that makes sense, hopefully. And again, we're going to pass in the ID of the thing that we want to do delete. All right. So after we do this, we're going to have these two buttons show up. And we need to have routes that deal with both of those buttons. All right, so route number one. Let's just copy this thing on over. Go to our routes. Routes. It's going to be a get again. I like to specify the method, but if you leave it blank, it's not going to kill you. Again, curly braces get transformed into bracket, and you whatever you want to call it. Just to clean this up a little bit. Colin made fun of my use of quotes the other day, so now I feel really embarrassed. I think you mentioned it. Did you? No, it's totally fine. It's. And then we want to go to courses, and we have already a method in there, I think, but let's just take a look. And that method is delete. So go to courses and do delete. So let's go to our routes. Great. And then we have one other route that came off that page. And again, it's a get. And what do we call that thing? Return. And in this case, we're just going to go to courses and call the index method. And pop right back over to index. All right, so we pass something in through the route parameters. That route parameter gets picked up here, and then it cruises on over to here. And so our method has to have something in it here. An ID. Let's make sure that works. Print ID. And let's make sure everything's still running. Broke you again. Key error. Get yes delete ID. Line 7 module. Anybody see any major issues here? All right. So going back over to here. On our routes. All right. Oh, perfect. Good call. That was pretty impressive. Cool. All right, so let's get that back up and running. Happiness. Whoa, not the right page. Awesome. So now we can delete one of these. And let's do go back first and see what happens. All right, so that does go back. Let's delete that one and then hit delete. Okay, so no URL found, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and look at what our server said. All right, so we said delete 2. We went to destroy. Yes, delete. We did some stuff. Cool. Things are actually looking not so bad. Cool. Whoops. All right, so yes, delete 2. Courses delete. Did we actually fire courses delete? I don't know. I don't know if we did. All right, so let's figure out what happened there. All right, so going back to our routes, let's just check one more time. And then we're going to make a much larger comment here. Did we make it here? It could have been from one of these other prints from right here. Let's get rid of some of these other prints just to see what happens. All right, and let's just take our routes. Let's take a look at our routes again. So courses delete. I think that's the one that we wanted to get, right? So that's looking pretty good, I think. It doesn't, but something else I think happened here. So notice, look at our route up here. It doesn't have a number associated with it. So I think nope, because we haven't called a delete method yet. So I think we're okay there. So I think it's actually a problem with our HTML, but I'm not sure. So let's go back and take a look at our HTML and see if there's anything wrong with our HTML. Because I think that's probably where it is. And I'm only saying that because I'm not seeing anything right here. So our button clicked, it fired our route, so our href looks like it's probably okay. So let's go back over here, check out our HTML, and course ID. Well, I don't know what's going wrong, so let's try to figure that out.
Is there a problem with you saying that all courses and courses should also be called course?
That shouldn't be an issue. But let's go ahead and just print out all of course and see what comes out. And we'll say temporary.
One is called courses. One you define one as there's one course equals course, but there's one course is equal courses.
Yeah, but those are on 2 different pages, so I think we're okay there. But we'll find out. So let's give this thing a run. We're going to try to delete number 2. ID 2. So it should be in there. So we should be able to get it. But I think, but notice that we aren't printing out course bracket title or course bracket description. Man, I can't figure this out. But we print out course fine. Huh. Help me. Help me.
Well, I mean, since it's like a list of dictionaries.
Yep. Yep. So that's perfect. That's what I was looking for. But since this is a show method and we know we just want to get one of them back, and we know that the first member of that list is going to be the 0th element, of course 0. But let's make this a little bit cleaner. So let's do instead of doing it on this side of the on our HTML page, let's go back and look at what we passed over. So we know that we're getting this list that has a dictionary inside of it, as Eugene mentioned. And so in order to get one element of this list, we do a for loop on our HTML page. Alternatively, we go into our courses, and instead of passing back course as courses, or course right here, we could say, so this is, whoops, this thing is returning, let's make a little comment here. Returns a list of length 1 with it returns a list of length 1. So we can say that instead of course is equal to that entire list, let's just make course equal to the first element in that list. All right, so let's go back over here. Delete. All right, we got the name, the title. We now have a delete that will hopefully be working. So now it's just the dictionary. Cool. So let's see what happens when we hit delete now. So hopefully our URL will change to a 2 up there. Yes, delete 2. And now we get this did not return a response function, which makes sense because our courses delete is passing and not returning anything. We should have been able to print this at this point. Let's make sure that that's the case. Again, because it's all those errors, and there's the print. All right. Cool. Looking pretty solid here. All right, so we've made it here. So now we can start going through our little key tabs that we have in our delete method. So call to the database and delete, and then redirect to backslash. Yes, you could do iterate through the loop, and you could also set the 0 on the create page if that was your question. All right, so let's do what we did before. We know how to delete stuff, so we're going to self.models course.delete int the ID. Cool. So I think that it's actually going to make it over to our model, and it's going to return delete if it works. So let's just print this thing and see what it gets printed out. So based on what our model looked like before, we have this delete method and it returns delete. So if we print it, it should print out whatever gets returned, as well as the query, and it should run the query here, but not return anything from it. All right, so hopefully we'll get a whole bunch of things happening at once and make sure that they're all working. Cool. So go back to our local host. It's probably broken now because I tend to make lots of typos, as you guys have. Oh, yes. All right. Let's delete one of these. Are we sure? Yes, we are. Didn't return a response still, which is fine because we still haven't actually returned anything. We're still passing. But let's go and look at what got printed out. So we should have been able to print delete somewhere on this thing. And then also when we reload the page, we're going to have one less thing on it. So we got, did we make it here? Oops, that's the wrong one. Here's that error, the most recent error. There it is, delete, right at the top here. All right, looking pretty good. I think we actually successfully deleted something. Cool. I don't know what I'm doing. There we go. All right, and there it's gone. Okay, super awesome. Let's return self.redirect. I don't know how to redirect in Pylot. This should work because it's an extension of Flask. So this will go, and we may actually have to write a route to it. But you got another better way to do it? So let's just go ahead and make ourselves a route. It says, if it's a backslash, go do this. So that's a get method when you pass it like that. I'm sure there's a better way to do it. I just don't remember how to do it in Pylot. Let's comment this out and see what happens. We're going to end up deleting all of our things by the end of this, but that's fine. Aw, sad face. Existing endpoint function for endpoint. So that's probably something with my redirect. So let's go ahead and already existing. Yep. All right. So I might actually have to look up how to redirect in Pylot. Shall we do that, or does somebody know it offhand, or is you think this works? All right. Let's just go to return. So we know that the return route in theory already exists and it's already doing what we need. So let's go ahead and get rid of that routes. Whoops, we don't need those ones. We've commented this one out already, so we should be good there. And restart our server. Server's up and running, great. And delete, and delete, and yes. Cool. So I think that's the, is that the basics of courses? Cool. Obviously we can prettify it. No, it's not not all of it. We guys still have to add a course. Awesome. All right, let's add a course really quick. We've got a pattern down pretty well. Guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna build the HTML. We've already know what the query is. We're gonna have a route that's gonna come off of a form. That form is then going to call the database, create something, and then redirect to the home page. Great. Sound like a plan? All right, form, action, equals, something, create, new course. And it's gonna be a method of, I don't know what method. It's gonna have an input. And that type is gonna be text. And its name is gonna be title. And that sounds good. We also have an input type of text. And its name is gonna be description. Oh, not in this one. For an update, it would be hidden. I cheated with the hidden stuff, so I said I was gonna, let's make a hidden one though. Input type equals hidden. Its name is, this is hidden. And its value is super secret. Then we're going to have the last input type equals submit. Its value is going to be new course. Awesome. And I should probably do something with the method. Since we're posting this thing, let's, oh. All right. Cool. So we should have a form that's semi-functional at this point, but it's going to go to a route that doesn't exist and then break. So let's make sure that it breaks as we expect it to. So as you guys can tell, I do a lot of testing while I'm developing. So click on our new course, breaky break. Okay, that's fine. So we broke it, but it broke in a way that we were planning on it breaking, which is not finding a route to go to. So we go to our routes. And what's this method? Yep. So post method. and create course equals course new. So create. Cool. Everybody happy with that? All right, so as is, we kind of wrote out kind of all of our courses that we wanted to have. One of them I think was create in here. Oh, we don't have one yet. That's so sad. Yeah, maybe let's make it. We do. We have a function in our model that's create. We don't have one in our courses. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to go back to our index HTML really quick because I want to look at that route and make sure I have the right route. So it's create course. So again, I'm just going to copy this thing over, go to our routes, create course, courses create. Perfect. Things are looking good there. So now we should be able to access this method in our courses. So now we should be hitting here. And so again, I'm just going to print create method. I'm going to return something, just I'm tired of it breaking right there. Okay. Cool. Take a look, make sure it's breaking. And so we should get an HTML page that says something on it after we run this thing. Oops. Make sure my server is up and running. Great. So now we go back here, new course, type some stuff in, and something pops up because that's what gets returned. So that course is, or that method is working. It's not really doing anything yet, but at least it's returning something like we expect it to. All right. So let's print request form. Request form, heck. I can just see it come out. So somebody asked earlier about hidden variables and what happens with them. So we can do a lot of different kind of fun things with the hidden variables. So basically just like we did with the anchor tag and we passed in the course ID into the href, you can also pass it in to the hidden variable. So you could pass it in as the value of the hidden variable. Hopefully we'll see all this pop up in just a second. So remember in our HTML page, we have this awesome hidden variable, which has name, this is hidden, and its value is super secret thing. But we could very well make this value into something like courses 0 ID. So we're outside of this loop, so I can't go and just do course bracket ID. So for example, we're just going to go after the very first member of that thing and look at its ID. All right, so let's go back and see if this actually does what we hope it's going to do. Blah, blah, blah. Description goes here and hit new course. Oh, can't call our immutable dictionary object. So sad. Oh, let's figure out what's going on there. But this is close. So we're in here. We tried to do this weird passing of this request form. Didn't like that so much. Can we just print it? I don't know. L. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. So now let's see what happens, what I got printed out here. All right, so here's our immutable dictionary object. And this is hidden. And then we got the ID because we passed it in as a parameter. and then we have a description and a title. So we have all the pieces. We just couldn't print it out the way we wanted it to. So we're not, I don't know. Anyways, awesome. Cool, so now we can do a create method. So how I like to do my create methods. So we have our request form. We know all the pieces that are going to go into it or come out of it. And I want to go back really quickly and look at our model. So we're going to go from here and go into our create. So here's our create method. We need 2 parameters. And the parameters are going to be title and then description. Cool. All right, let's see how this goes, because I'm not sure how it's going to go, because I haven't played around with this yet. So going back up to our courses controller, we're at our create. We're going to say params equal, and so this is what's going to be passed, or let's call this arguments, equals list with 2 elements in it. So this is where your comment comes in. So what kind of object is it that they're passing into the format? It is a dictionary with key value pairs?
Wait. No. They're passing in the
A list? Okay. All right, so we're going to make our own list over here on this side. And that list is going to have the 2 arguments that we want in here. We're going to have request.form bracket title. Remember, we're going to print this request form out again just because we're going to use it as a reference, just in case things don't go the way we want them to. And then the second thing that we're going to have in that list is a request.form description. Sweet. Okay. Now we have these arguments that we're going to pass into our parameters of create. So we're going to basically take the same general concept, which we have here, self.model course show, passing it a parameter or an argument, and we're going to change this from show to create, this from ID to arguments. All right, so hopefully that's going to be enough to create something new. It's still returning fail, which is fine because it might still fail. But let's update that to maybe fail. And let's look at what happens once we go to our course model. So again, we're coming from our index HTML page, which has this new form. That new form is going to call this create method and pass in this request.form information, from which we're just going to take the title and the description. We have a little bit more information in there that we don't necessarily need. We're going to go to our self.model course, call the create method. So we're now here calling the create method. We're getting some params over. Let's print those params. These are in the model. Right? Then we have our query that we're hopefully going to populate with those params. We're going to print the query. We're going to run the query. And then we're going to return create. Wow, that was a lot of stuff. PHP. I love to code. Hey, new course coming up, maybe. Tuple index out of range.
on the example, like access to tuple instead of.
Ah, perfect. Cool. No, that's fine.
Oh yeah.
So what happened was we had our parameters that were going into that params, and we passed it a list, but it was expecting a tuple. And so those curly braces that are in red on our model, they allow a tuple to unpack, meaning it takes the first element of the tuple and puts it in the first thing, second element of the tuple and puts it in the second thing. So if we take params and change them from our courses and we built them up, we built them up here as a list. Lists don't unpack the same way. So we can change that list into a tuple. Now it's a tuple. And let's see if it works now. PHP have tuples. Oh, tuple index out of range.
Argument equals dictionary title is specified.
Oh, that's a list. Oh, yeah, dictionary, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, did I say two?
Yeah.
Oh. Too many
No, that's totally fine.
Sorry.
Nope. What's that? It tried, it had too many things in the tuple. So we'll try this now. Title. Description. Okay, so now it's the dictionary going into where we think it's going to have a tuple, and then hopefully going to unpack the dictionary afterwards. This form. All right, so this is still our create method. So we send that dictionary over to our course, and hopefully our params as a dictionary will work. All right. Oh, we have some issues. Right. PHP does have dictionary-like things called associative arrays. Oh, tuple index is still out of range. All right, I guess we're gonna have to go to our create method. We have our params. We're gonna access them individually. Title, params, / description. All right, so it's expecting this thing alone to be a tuple. So we can't pass in a dictionary. We have to break apart each of our individual pieces, and then it will unpack correctly. Okay, fine. I was hoping to be super cool, but sadly I'm only not very cool. That's okay. Should work now. Oh, if I could actually type. See where this error is. Line 27 of our course.py. Line 27, somewhere in here, something's going south. Params bracket title, params bracket description. Oh yeah, I am seeing a bracket. Cool, thanks. All right. Learn to type. It really helps with coding. Yes, it looks like we actually created a course. There he is. All right, so we've now created a new course. All right, and so now we can change that maybe fail to a return redirect to return. Wow, that was. Okay, so we have our maybe fail. Where'd that thing go? Ah, courses. We've already set our return route. Our return route goes back and runs our index and will to be reloaded. Okay, so let's make a new course. End of evening, time to drink beer. All right, let's make sure we delete stuff. Oh, delete. Okay. It is, and I think we probably know why. It's probably because I can't type. Let's just make sure. Let's look at our index page really quick. And I'm guessing I didn't close my form. And so every time I'm trying to click that thing, it's submitting both forms. So let's close that form up so we can actually start deleting stuff again. Delete. Yes, we want to delete that blank thing. Delete. Yes, we want to delete that one as well. Nah, we don't want to drink beer. Well, we do, but that's not appropriate. So, okay, cool. So you successfully made courses. Not very pretty. Thank you guys for your help. So, yeah. So that's kind of one of the things that I really wanted to emphasize, and I don't know if I did a very good job of it, was really using those RESTful routes. And since those things are named super consistently, I don't ever have to look up and think about what they do. So every time I want to call an index, it just gets everything. Every time I want to delete something, it just deletes, something by its ID. It shows something by its ID. You can add some more types of things, but if you have those 7, you can do a lot of web pages. So, yep. All right.
What does it mean if you get a question mark at the end?
So that's a get method. Yep.
Super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. Not sure if my recording stopped though.
As long as it got recorded, because we are all sort of depending on that, right?
Yeah, I think it may not have recorded. I'm very sad.
No.
Aw. I might have quit my Chrome at some point. Oh, no, I'm sharing screen. Come on, really?
It's in a tab.
Is it?
Yep, it's in a tab in here. Other Chrome, your other Chrome.
Let's close this one.
So,
Ah, awesome. Thank goodness. Stop right.
Let's get rid of that comment. Self-load view. Destroy confirm.html. Go ahead and check to make sure that that's delete confirm. So we'll switch this thing to delete. All right. So hopefully when we try to delete something now, it'll load us onto a new page. I suppose we should do that. No. Let's try it and see what happens. Fine. Cool. Good call. All right. Okay, so we don't know what we want to delete, but we might want to delete something. So how are we going to figure out what we want to delete? So we have this other comment that we have in here, which was go to database and call show. So let's go ahead and do that. So again, self.models